if we could start by you telling me what is the most important lesson that either your mother or father or both of them ever taught to you?
Look, my parents always allowed me to develop a close relationship with nature and with animals, you know. They let me do in nature and with nature what I felt, you know. And I believe that allowed me, you know, to get into a relationship with the environment, and I think nature is the best teacher, you know. After all, is what really makes you feel a being, you know, part of this, connected to the rest, you know. So probably that, and that I was very much loved for them too, you know. So nature and love are the most important things that parents transmit, in my opinion, you know, in my particular case.
So, that being said, what is the most important thing for you to teach your children? And what has been the biggest challenge of being a father? For would-be fathers out there, what's the biggest challenge?
Look, I'm a man that became father late, you know.
Cool.
Because I always thought that I had too many things to do before, you know. And actually, I did a lot. You know, I traveled a lot. I lived in different countries, different cultures, even different women. And well, one day I felt, you know, like if it was my time to be a father, you know, like if I had already gathered enough information, enough traveling, enough experiences, you know. And then it came very natural to me, you know. It was like, okay, now is my time to settle down, to give, you know, instead of just absorbing, you know. It was my time for giving, you know. And at the end, maybe it's the same with everyone, no? I really feel that nature and love, you know, what my parents taught me, you know, is about the most important thing that I can teach to my children, because, well, the results made me happy. You know, I am a happy man. So what else should I teach them? You know, I just try to get a little bit more, a little farther with my teachings. You know, my parents live in Madrid. My father was a university teacher of economy, you know, and empresariales, business, and he was very much related to banks too, bank work. And he came also from a very poor environment. So he had to work all his life through his own formation in order to get what he considered it was important. You know, there was a certain status, a certain quality of life. Since I come from there, you know, with a family that never had much needs, you know. Maybe that's why I don't consider it that important, you know. In my teachings of nature, there is much more of disattachment, you know, than what I was taught. I am not, how to say, so connected with the idea of earning money, you know, and reaching to a certain level. I really feel so good with what I am. I'm a healthy organism, you know, and that makes me happy by itself, you know. I've chosen a nice environment to live. Every morning I wake up happy for that, and I go to sleep happy for that. I think I learn to take happiness from the most simple things, you know, for the most basic things. And that's probably what I like to teach my children too, you know. And also how the mind works, you know. That's essential, because at the end we construct our reality and we construct our way of feeling through the way we construct our thoughts. So it's a very important thing for children to learn. Things are not one way. Things are the way you see them, you know. And there are many things always around you. It depends where you put your attention, you know, and how you process that information, that you will get happier or not.
You've talked a lot about freedom in passing, in the conversations we've had. So how do you define freedom?
Freedom, first you have to free yourself, from yourself. Because the biggest limitations are the ones that you impose to yourself, We are here just for a little while. I think our freedom is, it's freedom to feel. And in order to have the freedom to feel, you have to have the freedom to think, the freedom to act. To be free, the first thing you have to do is to learn to be by yourself.
Nice.
And then you get to know yourself better, and how things work up here. Wise people says that it is very important to run away from the people that knows you, because they are the first ones limiting you, even if it's through love. They have some expectations of you, and if you do something different, they will be the first one telling you, we didn't expect that from you, or you're surprising me, or are you sure you want to go that way? So when nobody knows you, they could expect anything, and therefore you don't have the social limitation. So that helps a lot. But then you also have to have an understanding of what you really are, and not only you and you within the context that you live in. I always say that we are like in between everything. If you look in a macro level, we are a piece, of higher structures, a piece of your family, a piece of your tribe, a piece of your society, your culture, your country, your planet, always a piece of something, and even a piece of the cosmos, But if you look on the other direction, you are a kingdom, You have... you are also the continent for many other things, your cells, your bacteria, your electrons, all the subatomic particles, So we are right there in the middle of a microcosmos and a macrocosmos, And we have the consciousness to grab that concept and assimilate it day by day by practice, That makes you free. Because then things are not absolute. Things get so relative, And what it might look important in one level, it's absolutely non-important, and that's at the next level, So actually, there is nothing really that important, And once you realize that, you're free of yourself, You can laugh at yourself, You can be good with yourself. You can choose to look in the direction you want, So that together with a good heart, which means do the best that you can of yourself, That's a privilege that every one of us has, But many of us have forgotten. And it gives you a good feeling.
Who were your heroes when you were growing up, and how has that changed now that you're probably a hero to a lot of people?
Well, I really don't think that I'm a hero for nobody, I could be a life example for some people that is in a certain frequency, and then they see, it is possible, to live in a sustainable way. It is possible to come back to nature and live simple, It is possible to live without fears. So I like the idea, of helping anyone that wants to take a look, to the way I live, and if that can help them somehow, to reorient their lives, to consider or to start thinking, everyone is different, The influence that we have in people varies from the receptivity that they have, and the frequency that they are vibrating in, Some people just dislike this place, And some people just love it. Yeah. So But actually, your original question was a different one.
Who are your heroes?
Oh, my heroes. My hero is Tarzan since I was little, you know. It's true, you know. I always loved that guy, you know, in the jungle, living with the. Actually, you know, I have a PhD on primate behavior, you know. That's because of Tarzan. Yes, you know, I always wanted to be raised by monkeys, you know, and live with on top of an elephant, you know, and fight tigers, you know, and. So, yeah, I always liked people that had that type of life. I had also one guy I liked, you know, when I was little, he was one of the first Spanish filmmakers that he used to do a very nice work on animals in Spain. And I always watched those programs, you know, it was Felix Rodriguez de la Fuente. But, and then modern heroes, I also follow the example of other people. You know, there has been many wise people in our history,
Sure.
Many wise people, and most of them say the same, in different ways. You know, but they say the same. So I like just to get inspired through their example. You know, like Gandhi. You know, or well. Martin Luther King, you know, or even Mandela. It's people that have really fought for something that they believed fair, you know. I think in this life you have to be a fighter. And if a law is not fair, you don't have to accept it, you know. Because otherwise you become part of the game that you don't believe in, you know.
I know a lot about, from our short discussions, what you don't believe in. So what do you believe in?
I believe that this life is a game and that is to be enjoyed, you know. That's one of my strongest beliefs, you know. And every day I am more convinced on that, you know. So really, I believe in love, you know. I believe in giving. I think all of it comes together, you know. And I think, you know, the only things you really have are the ones you give.
Wow.
So it's about it, you know. Things are very simple. It's not in the essence of things, you know. Being a biologist have helped me to understand nature. I think getting to know how things work, you know, it's a surprising experience. You know, you feel like marvelous, you know. It's like, wow, you know, you get to know what you are, you know. It's almost casuality that we are alive, you know. So knowledge, but applied knowledge, you know, not like this knowledge humans usually have right now, that we know a lot of things but we don't act according to what we know, you know.
Absolutely.
So basically that, as I said before, my greatest teacher is nature, you know. Animals, plants, the way they relate, you know. Everything is about symbiosis, you know, cooperation between organisms, much more than competence, you know. Things grow and develop together. And we are not different, even if we behave different, you know. We shouldn't be different. We should develop with everything. We should feel the signs of the world changing and act according, you know, to keep the balance, you know. That's an important thing.
What do you think is a book that every person should read?
Every person is not. Most people don't understand what they read. You know. So, you know, there is many different levels, you know. The Alchemist, probably, by the way, that's not a book of Pablo Coelho, you know. This is a very old book, comes from Persia, you know. He just copied, and actually it's his only good book.
I've heard
But The Alchemist is a very interesting book. There is many other texts that come from Orient, you know, that are very worth it. For example, one that I love is the Tao Te Ching of Lao Tzu. I think it's a book that gathers a lot of deep knowledge, you know, and it can be interpreted in so many different ways. I like the Asian thinking, you know. The Buddhism is a good philosophy. And I like quantum physics, Quantum physics I find really amazing. It really gives you a clue to change your way of thinking. The first book I read on quantum physics is a book called The Tao of Physics from a man that is called Fritjof Capra. And well, since it really touched me, maybe it's one of those that I would recommend, but I know it's not to the reach of everyone, I wouldn't give it to my 13-year-old boy because he would not read it, But for people trying to understand, it's a good start.
You spoke a little bit about it's not that difficult to be enlightened. However, maintaining that level of enlightenment is that's the challenging thing. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, Phil, I don't feel very good talking like if I was enlightened, because I don't really know what it is, I think it's just having your mind a little more open, and your conscious a little bit more prepared, But as you mentioned, we talk. Most people get enlightened once in a while. Most people have seen that truth about themselves and what surrounds them, The main problem is to keep it, It's like everybody has fallen in love once, but how many have been able to keep that intensity in love,
Right.
That's the same thing, So for me, enlightenment as loving is an art, that you have to practice. Only by practice you get good at things, Even the musicians. The other day, I I read something nice, about a very, very famous guitar player, Spanish guitar player, Paco de Lucia, In my country, they say to these flamenco players, or singers, they say, les entró el duende. It's like the duende is like a small little mystic man, It's like this man enter you, and gave you the strength, And so wow, llegó el duende and the party went up, And this Paco de Lucia said, I've been playing guitar 8 hours a day since I was 6. Where I come from, this they call duende.
Practice.
Yes, man. I mean, it's just practice, Practice and practice and practice and practice. Like meditation, it's practice, Everything is practice. Because, well, even, the society we live in right now, where all these people is thinking only about what they earn, and thinking about how much they're going to get when they retire and how many things are going to do when they retire. They think like that because they practice. And not only them, also the social context, So they practice that since young. They tell you go to school to learn, to get a job, and they get to think that's the real thing, By practice, unfortunately, Because if we were taught different, if we were taught about, look, this is a short time you are going to be here in this life, one of these days, and we cannot tell you when you're going to die,
Right.
And you would live with that practice, and practice of thought, of how lucky you are to be alive and healthy today, we will be much happier, in our everyday life, So practice what you want to be. Like Gandhi said that, practicing yourself, of doing yourself the changes that you expect for the world, that's no more secret,
What advice can you give to a person that wants to be free?
Look, the first advice is that you have to fight your fears. Because at the end we get trapped in this type of thinking and in this trap of life because of fear, Fear not to have enough for feeding your children, fear not to have a house, fear not to have a social acceptance, Fears are always false. There is really, fear has a sense when it's a very basic fear. When a tiger is chasing you, you have to be fearful because then you run more. But if you live thinking that the tiger is gonna get you all the time, then you don't walk happily. You walk scared, you know, and there are very few tigers actually, you know. So, and they don't like humans. And if wouldn't have killed their deers, they would be eating deers, you know. So, really, let the fears aside, you know. That's what I would say, and try. I know it's easier to say than to do, you know. But just try, little by little, you know. Like now, nothing happens if you skip 1 year or 6 months, you know, and do something different. Some people needs even less time to realize, you know. Depends really how fixed are you in your thoughts. But once you try, then you start seeing that it's liable, it's feasible, you know, and you can do it. And it's comfortable, and you know, it's easy. So it's like, oh shit! I mean, all these things that I was told happen not to be so truth, you know, and then they become lies. So go ahead. I mean, I always tell them the same. Some people comes here and they come telling me they feel envy, healthy envy about the way I live, you know, and I always like to tell them, look, if you want to come and do something, just bring me a project, you know, and we'll study if it is possible, if it fits here, you know, because there's many different things to do, you know, really so many, in order to survive, not to get rich. That's the point, you know, in order to survive in a sustainable way. But, you know, people don't bring nothing. People really, many have enough with the offer. Many of them write me after they have been here, saying how grateful they are, that now they know that in the worst of the possible cases, you know, they could come here, you know. It makes them happy. They don't feel so deep in the hole. They think they have an alternative, you know. But we all have plenty alternatives all the time. I don't have to come and offer nobody nothing. Life is offering you infinite possibilities every day, you know. That's the beauty of it, you know. So you just have to open your eyes. And with fears, it's difficult. Without fears, eyes get open, you know. And then you can act. So give it a try.